We're joined now by John Makin for his reaction. He's a former consultant to the U.S. Treasury Department and the Congressional Budget Office and is now a visiting scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. Mr. Makin, welcome to Bloomberg News. Good to see you.
Mark, it's good to be here.
Sir, I just spoke to Jared Bernstein, and we began by talking about one of the things that President Obama spoke of. He talked about mobilizing TARP funding to help small businesses. You have some concerns about that. Tell us what they are.
Well, I think the funds could be focused better. Look, we all know that we have a big budget deficit. We want to do the best we can for the economy. I'd like to see the $200 billion of TARP funds that are available dedicated to job creation through a reduction of the payroll tax. I can expand on that a little bit more, but basically everybody pays a payroll tax. And employers pay 7% of your pay, and you pay 7%. It's taken out of your paycheck every time you receive a check. It's regressive. It's levied on relatively low-income taxpayers at a higher rate than it is on high-income taxpayers. What I would suggest, and this captures a lot of the things that the president wants to do, would be to say, let's have a payroll tax holiday. We could alleviate about a third of the payroll tax that's paid by employers and employees. The result would be equivalent to tax credits for hiring, because if you say to an employer, look, you don't have to pay the payroll tax, or you don't have to pay the full payroll tax, so hiring is going to be encouraged and layoffs discouraged. Ironically, the payroll tax is a tax on employing labor. The employee also gets a boost in their payroll, and so they get more money on hand to spend or save.
Might I ask you about talk that we've been hearing, and I heard Thomas Friedman in the New York Times mention it again this weekend, a gasoline tax of $1 a gallon. Is that something that's feasible?
It's feasible, but why would you want to try to stimulate the economy by taxing gasoline? Gasoline is energy. It would reduce disposable income for all households. I like Tom Friedman. He's a great political analyst, but maybe he should stay away from economics.
Talk to me about how TARP legislation would have to be altered if this were, in fact, to take place, what you were speaking of. Is this something that Congress and the White House could do before the end of the year?
I don't think they could do it before the end of the year, but I think there's going to have to be some legislative measures taken to implement some of what the president is proposing.
Should all of this extra TARP money be used for deficit reduction, as a lot of people have suggested, and not, as some have called it, a backdoor stimulus, second stimulus plan?
Well, that's an alternative. Yeah. If you reduce the deficit by about $200 billion by using the TARP money, you'd probably see a drop in interest rates, which would help to stimulate the economy. What I'm trying to do is respond constructively to what we have as a serious unemployment problem with the payroll tax credit approach. I would add that the payroll tax credit approach is supported on a bipartisan basis. Some of my colleagues at the Brookings Institution, where the president spoke, have advocated a similar measure. So I like the measure because A, it works, and B, it has bipartisan support.
So you can't get the deficit down with TARP then?
You can. You could. You could say we're not going to spend that $200 billion. We're just going to apply it to deficit reduction. But then you don't get any extra help to encourage employers to keep people on the payroll.
Sir, in about 15 seconds, anything going to get done by this time next year? What's the landscape going to look like?
By this time next year, yes. Yeah. I think it doesn't get done over the balance of the year. I think the Congress is invited back in January, and they get to work on this, and they undertake the legislative measures that are necessary to implement a second stimulus package.
And before I let you go, Ben Bernanke, does he get renominated?
He's going to be confirmed, I expect, in a vote, I think.
Senate Banking Committee, December 17th?
Yes. There's a lot of griping, but he gets through, and he'll be our Fed chairman for the next 4 years, and it's a great idea.
John Makin of the American Enterprise Institute joining us on set. Mr. Makin, nice to meet you. Thank you so much.